to our first Ask an Expert series. I'm so thrilled to have you here this evening. Thanks for your time. This first month in April, we are going to be discussing real estate, which is a bit of an interest topic for myself, and we'll be learning tips, tricks, and advice from the experts on our panel. My name, for those of you who don't know me, is Jennifer Paquette, and I'm the Adult and Teen Services Coordinator here at the Midland Public Library, and I'll be your host for this evening. I'll begin with a land acknowledgement. Midland Public Library acknowledges and is thankful for the opportunity to work on the traditional territory of the Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, which includes the Chippewa, Ojibwa, Potawatomi, and Odawa people. We especially acknowledge the Chippewa of Bosley First Nation and Rama First Nation, who were the stewards of the lands in and around Midland. And we recognize the Métis nationhood currently represented in our community by the Georgian Bay Métis Council. We recognize and deeply respect their ongoing and historic connection to these lands. These connections need to be clearly and overtly articulated as part of our collective agreement to make the promise and challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our community. Let's get to introducing our guests for the evening. Mary Mitakidis was born and raised in Midland and is a mom, wife, and rock star realtor. She's been helping people buy homes, investment properties, and cottages in Midland, Tiny, Tay, and surrounding area for 13 years. Mary knows both sides of the real estate market as a full-time self-employed and independent realtor and as a landlord. She especially enjoys using her experience and personalized service to make the real estate experience smooth and less stressful for first-time home buyers, seniors, and investors. There's no question that real estate and homes are Mary's passion. There is something about Mary. Please join me in welcoming Mary Mitakidis. Mary, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for asking me to be here.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. Also joining us, our other panelist is Kim Bellehumeur. Kim is a broker with Century 21 BJ Roth Realty. Her motto is a quote from Steve Jobs that says, "The only way to do great work is to love what you do." Every day, Kim wakes up wanting to get to work because she loves helping others, has a desire to please, and is motivated to succeed every day. Kim has been involved in the real estate industry since 2003, selling real estate in beautiful Simcoe County since 2010. She loves the challenge and the diversity of everyday activities and the people who seek her help. Family is of the utmost importance to Kim, and she believes that her passion for real estate stems from that family unit. Kim, we're thrilled that you could be part of our Ask an Experts panel today. Thank you for being here.
I'm pleased to be here. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Well, no more introductions necessary. We're just going to launch into some of our questions. So just a reminder to our guests, if you have questions for our panelists, pop them into the chat box. I've got a few of my own to get us started here on tips, tricks, and advice, but I welcome your input, so please don't forget about that option. My first question is for you, Mary, and I'm sure it's a big one on everyone's mind, and that is, how has COVID changed the game for real estate?
Well, it's been a year now, so it's basically been hand sanitizer, gloves, mask, limiting to showings, time frames, no double bookings. But the biggest thing that has been, I say more in the last 6 months than ever now, is the basically holding offer presentation dates. So you have a house that's listed, they have it for maybe 5 days, let's say, that they're going to do offers. And with that, what we're having is multiple offers on everything, typically like 9 out of 10, let's say, and cash on almost every offer. So that means no conditions of financing, no condition of a home inspection, no condition on anything. It's septics. It's like firm deal. So that's the biggest change right now with COVID.
That's what's making things blow up and move so quickly, eh?
Yes, absolutely.
Are you experiencing a lot of sellers coming from the city looking for places, now that everybody is working from home and in some cases, indefinitely, so they can really work from anywhere? So there's sort of an influx of those folks from those
Yes.
areas?
Buyers, yes, the buyers are coming from the city with their city realtors, unfortunately, for a lot of us too, which is driving up the prices in a sense too. Because a lot of them are holding an offer at, let's say it's $499. We don't know what it's going to sell for. So if you have 6 or 8 or 10 offers on something, and these people are coming from the city and probably sold their home or whatever their case is, they're coming in and doing those cash offers. I would say it's hard to say because you don't know each buyer when you're looking at a sold. You look at the buyer realtor and say, okay, well, they're from the city, so I'm assuming that it's a city buyer. But I'm going to say over 80% is 80%. Like, it's hard. It's a guess. It's my guess. Is 80% is probably out of town buyers because they can work remotely, because they want to be around Georgian Bay. They want to be away from the hustle and bustle, like people in apartment buildings or condos or wherever they're working. They're getting away from that, being around everybody all the time, and being here, you're kind of, I'm not going to say you're away from people, but there's a little bit more separation, right?
Have you ever before in your career seen things move as quickly as they seem to be right now?
No. Like, never. Never.
Is it something you've ever experienced before, Kim?
No, it's I've been in the business, I guess 11 or 12 years now, so I haven't seen this either.
No, well, that's pretty incredible. And have you heard of situations of folks, you mentioned the limited number of showings and a lot of the PPE and safety protocols that go into showings. Do you, and it seems like a lot of waiving of what would be traditional conditions, home inspections, things like that. Are folks buying places sight unseen in some cases, do you think?
I would say probably. I will say that last year in April, I actually did an offer with someone that did not see the property, which goes against my whole, professionalism on that point of thing. But it was a little bit different because at least the house was 2 doors down from his in-laws. So the in-laws had seen the house, and then we did a conditional on viewing it. But yeah, that was my first offer in COVID was in April last year, and they did an offer without seeing it. I was like, what? This is weird. So it's happening, but you can't do that sometimes with these cash offers because it would be conditional upon you viewing it. I've had people that can't make it up from the city or wherever they are to view a place, and it's like, well, it's going to be sold. So, but people, you're constantly educating them on this process, educating yourself on, I don't know what the price is going to be. Like, I don't know what it's going to sell for. You can kind of have a guess, but it's educated to this much because a house down the road could have sold for $550. The same similar-ish house could sell for $600 a week later. Makes no sense, right? It's all about demand, right?
For sure. It sounds like one way I've heard the pandemic described, and it sounds like it reaches to a number of different industries, is that we're very much trying to build the bridge as we're trying to cross it. We've just not experienced these sort of things before. Kim, it sounds like it's a great time to be a retiree or a downsizer perhaps in the area. So in your opinion, what do folks who are selling their home need to consider? We've talked about, the buyers are coming from the city, but it's us local folks who are selling. So what do we need to be thinking about?
Well, it is a great time for retirees or downsizers to sell. And because, right now the prices are so high, what they sell their home for, it's a great time for them to beef up their retirement fund. And that's exactly what it'll do right now. Things they have to consider. I always tell my clients, they need to have a plan A and they need to have a plan B. And plan A would look like, the ideal home that they're looking for, the square footage they're looking for, the neighborhood, and, maybe everything on one floor. And but if you're in competition and you just can't purchase that because other buyers are pushing you out of the market, then you need to have a plan B. So plan B would look like maybe living with your parents or changing the location or renting until something comes on the market that is suitable. And just, remember, if you don't have a plan A or a plan B, you might have to go live with Mary.
No room.
Yeah, no room, no room. So the other thing that I think you need to consider is you always need to know your numbers. It's so important to know your finances and requirements of the lender prior to submitting an offer. So you don't want to be caught in needing financing and not having that condition in the offer. With an experienced mortgage broker, this will be an easy process. And it's actually the first step everyone needs to make prior to viewing homes or submitting an offer.
Mhm. So really, you've got to explore your situation because, don't, really think about it before you do that knee jerk reaction of like, houses are selling for bananas prices around here. Let's list the house and make boatloads of money. You need to really consider about where you're going to go, what you're going to buy if you can. It sounds like it's a very competitive market out there, folks coming from the city being able to put in cash offers without those sort of conditions. And to sit down and put pen to paper or pencil to paper and figure out what your financial situation is like and do those as you said, Kim, do that research in those meetings with the banks, and so that you have that money, so you know what you can spend, so that it's there, so that you can move along the process faster. Interesting.
And retirees, if they've been in their home a long time, they have a lot of equity in there. So they're looking at that as such a great opportunity to, as I said, beef up the retirement fund. And, you can't blame them for anybody for wanting to sell right now in this market, but you definitely have to be prepared, definitely, because housing, rental housing is difficult to find right now. So you need a plan A and you need a plan B, and you need to know your numbers.
And you're working on shorter timelines from what you've said. Things are closing so quickly. Something that's listed that's, typically maybe a week before they host offers or something like that. And then next thing you know, you could be closing. I mean, this is just my estimation. You guys are the experts, but it seems like it moves quite quickly.
It is. It goes up for sale, and then maybe, maybe 7 days later, you invite all offers.
Wow, that's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, just before, we've got a question from the chat box, which I'll get to here in just a second. But before we get to there, Mary, we talked about like plan B and plan A. And so if your plan A or B is renting, what's the rental market like in Midland?
Crazy. I've seen people asking now $1,400 and up for a basement apartment, which is insane.
One or two bedroom?
A what?
Like one or two, like a 2-bedroom?
I was gonna say at least a 2-bedroom.
Okay.
And I've seen, sorry, my phone's going off. I've seen, I don't even want to say 16, but I'll say 16, 18 and up for a main floor. I've seen 18, 19, over 2,000 for like a townhouse. I'm not going to say that they're going to get it every month, but I see these listings out there. It is extremely difficult to find a rental. A lot of people that are taking advantage of the market are unfortunately getting rid of their tenants. So there's even a more influx of that. And if they were paying $1,000 or, even $1,200, they're not going to be able to find a place at that rate right now. I don't know why it's so crazy. It's too high for our area. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a rental and I do not charge that high of a rent, but my rent gets paid. I do know that much.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard though. Like there's a few sites on Facebook for the Midland area. There are some property manager people in the area as well, but there's a lot of not so nice places either. Like there's a lot of bad places out there. A lot of bad landlords too.
I would imagine too, like we were talking about selling to beef up your retirement or to be able to capitalize on what the market is like here. It's like you were saying, Mary, that perhaps if I'm a landlord and I've got multiple properties and things are selling like hotcakes right now, what I want to list is my income property where I have the tenants, because I don't want to leave myself without somewhere to live. So that's what I'm putting up for sale. It's selling, and then like you say, the tenants are moving out, or
and it's tricky because a lot of people don't know the rules.
Right.
So people think realtors only know real estate, like the transaction, but we know so much more. And I don't want to go into everything that we know and how great we are. But there's a lot of stuff about land. Yeah, woohoo. There's a lot about Residential Tenancies Act that nobody really knows. Even realtors that are listing properties don't even know. And I don't want to get into all of it because there's so much legalities of it. But really, you can't kick out all your tenants. Like, it's only whatever a family member who's going to live in it and reside in it, even if it was 2 units, and they have to be in there for a full year before they can kick it. Say, oh, I'm getting rid of all these people for $1,000. I'm going to charge $1,500.
Right. Okay.
They have to physically move in there, and there are like legal fees of 20. I think it beefed it up to $50,000 if they are finding that they are not actually renting it out. But it's still happening that people are now like actually moving into these units. We're talking like a duplex it's easy enough to take both ones, but we're talking like a 4 unit or 8 units, then that's a totally different story. You have to assume all the tenants basically at that point. So showing tenanted properties to me is a big scary thing to do now, because you don't know if they're going to be gone. That's the reality.
Yeah, I can only imagine what that's like.
Yeah.
So it's very, inventory is low, and prices are high. Those are my takeaways.
Yep, that's it.
Thank my lucky stars, I have a roof over my own head.
Exactly.
All right, I'm gonna switch up the order here for just a second, and because to get to our question in the chat box, and that was, so Mary, I'm going to pose this question to you, and then we'll come back to you, Kim. Our question in the chat box is, what home features are most important to upgrade when you're looking to sell? So what home renovations give sellers the best bang for their buck? Easy,
Okay.
that kind of thing.
Easy fixing is always fresh coat of paint, but it has to be like done well. Like you don't want to see how I paint it today, that you hit the ceiling and you don't fix it. So painting, being clean, very clean. I would also say decluttering. I always tell people, if you're serious about selling, pack your stuff up, because if you got an offer and somebody wanted to give you, I used to say asking price, now we'll just say so much more over, and they want to close in 3 weeks, is that going to be doable? So pack up that stuff, because you're going to have to pack it anyways, and put it in a storage unit. And any smells. So obviously don't smoke in your house, but if you do, there's things to do for that. Pet smells, all that stuff, like try to get rid of smells, but don't put plugins. Just try to air out your house a bit, get some fresh air in it. And then if we're talking renovations, absolutely anything you can do to enhance your bathroom or your kitchen. I love to see backsplash in kitchens, and you'd be surprised how many houses I go into and they don't have backsplash. Like just little things like that. I'm not talking about doing a whole redo. If your kitchen is dated and old and worn, paint it. You don't have to replace it. Paint it. Like get a new countertop, or if there's anything that's broken or in disrepair, fix it. So that it looks fresh and clean, that someone can move in. I'm a big thing about windows though. Like I look at structural stuff when I'm looking at houses. So like cracked windows or condensation that's gone in windows, replace those. Shingles, roofs, stuff like that. Absolutely. If they're curling, replace your shingles, because that's the first thing you see when you come to the house, right? The first thing I do if I'm there before my clients, I look at the roof line. If I go up the street or down the street, across the street, I'm looking at the shingles, because the buyer might not be looking at that. So that's what I'm looking at, right? And I'll explain to them like, oh, did you look at the roof? And then just like outside, to me, not a cluttered yard, really. And make sure your neighbors aren't so bad either, if you can.
Kim, my question to follow up on that is for you. So Mary's really touched on a lot of the immediate things that you can do to help, get the biggest bang for your buck. But for someone like myself, who isn't really looking to sell right now, but maybe in the next 5 years, what sort of things should I be considering?
Oh, well, I'm always going to say know your finances, because you always have to know your numbers. You should purge. You should make your home more spacious. Clean the windows.
Mhm.
Definitely clean the windows, your doors, your handles. I'm a fan of a fresh coat of paint, nice neutral color. Deal with cobwebs in your utility room. You guys just have no idea how much time realtors spend in the utility room. we, there's you can learn a lot about a house in the utility room. So that's
It was
pretty
like, oh my
important.
gosh, did she go to my basement? Because this is where it's so cobwebby down there.
Oh, yeah. Tend to those little items that you see around the house that need to be dealt with, whether, your cat has scratched the trim and you just need another coat of paint or those type of things. Take a good look at your kitchen and your bathroom and, make your home sparkle. A clean home goes a real long way. And there's lots of people that like cleaning homes. So, you don't have to do it yourself. Um, think about walking into your home for the first time. So, step outside and kind of have a different mindset. If I'm walking in this home for the first time, what do I see? What do I like? What do I don't like? And if that's too difficult to do, then actually take a video and go through your home. And you'll be really surprised as to what you see through that lens. You might be surprised that, it's not that bad, or, oh, geez, I never saw that before. We go, how, that saying, you go nose blind. Well, you can go lens blind too. You can have a pile of laundry that you walk past, for a week and you don't see it, but it's there. And that would be the first thing somebody notices, So I really think that's a good idea, especially, to do a video walkthrough, because it's going to pick up things that you just have never seen before, even in your own home.
Another question is just coming through the chat box that I think is relevant to ask now, and that is, how important is it to stage your home for showing?
Who would you like to answer?
You can continue, Kim, and then if Mary, if you have anything to add, feel free to add it in.
Okay.
I actually think staging is an excellent idea. I think it brings more value to your home. It depersonalizes. I never want to take away the homey feeling, because, we all have houses, but when you purchase, you can feel yourself that this is your home. So I think there's things that we need to maybe keep to make it still feel homey. But if you have a collection and you have a passion for this collection, and it is in every single room, we need to, Mary made a good comment, pack it up now. You at some point are going to be packing it up. So pack it up now and just put it aside. Nobody's telling you to get rid of it. We're just saying, keep in mind that you're putting your house up for sale for it to be somebody else's home, and they need to visualize their own items, furniture, family photos, whatnot on the wall. So I think it goes a long way. It doesn't have to be costly, just a simple decluttering can make a world of difference. But definitely personalized items, and less is always more. So even, if you have a coffee table that you always have stuff on, just pack it up. If you have Kleenex boxes all over the place, that sounds so silly, but in photos, especially, a Kleenex box stands out like a sore thumb. So collect them all up and get rid of them. And, when with respect to your kitchen counters, you always want to make it look like you have more space than maybe you do have. So taking some items off the counter and tucking them away, it might be a little inconvenient, but again, it'll go a long way.
Excellent. Anything to add, Mary?
Yeah, I was just thinking, even with the staging, it's not staging like having somebody come in. It's using your own furniture, your own stuff. Again, like that painting, cleaning, taking more stuff down and just kind of depersonalizing it from your own home. And I'm in the process of doing that right now at our house. And my husband's like, well, why are you taking down all the pictures? And I was like, well, I know that look good, this display, but they're personal pictures. Like, you know, I've been at houses and everybody does this. They look at oh, I know that guy. Oh, I know that person. Like, we all look, and it's okay to look, but you're trying to get them to picture themselves in your house. The other point about that is that if you're getting your house professionally painted, so now you just made holes in your walls again, and now you got to fix it up before you leave, right? So the whole point is to make it look fresh and clean. Have a few pictures here and there, but you want it to feel that they can. And pictures, it's funny. I've had pictures everywhere, and I'm like, wow, my house feels bigger. Like it really does right now. Like going down the hallway, I'm like, wow, it feels so big in here. They're this, they're this wide, the pictures, but it makes such a difference. And it's just so. But I thought about it. I'm gonna get my house professionally painted. Why would I put holes back in? Because now it's going to look bad when I walk away. And everything I keep taking down, I'm like, oh, it feels so much bigger. So it's staging it for the next person while you're still living there. But the other point was when we take pictures, I usually go with the photographer and I move that stuff so that you might still have it there, but you can just take it away for the pictures. And then for showings, I'll be like, okay, well, make sure you put the stuff away. Like now it's a little bit different. Just put it away for the week and don't even bother, taking it out, but just put that stuff away. Like if you always have the toaster out, like, Kim said, put it away, put it in a spot. And then like the counter spaces, absolutely, you want to have all that done. But you just bring it back out when you're using it. And then, when we're there for photos, if it's out, I will personally move it myself just because you want it to look the best in the pictures. Same as a toilet seat should always be down in photos. That's the number one thing that drives me crazy in people's photos. It's just little things, like you don't want to see everyone has extra toilet paper in their bathroom. We just don't want to see it in the picture. The bath mat, we just don't want to see it in the picture, certain things like that.
That makes sense. So as a quick recap, because I'm very much taking notes myself. So 5 years out of looking at things like your utilities and your roof and your windows, maybe considering doing some big renovations and things like that. And definitely short term, if you're more immediately looking at selling, starting to declutter your home. It's actually now, as a result of our conversation, it will be a goal of mine to live my life as though I'm constantly staging my house. Because I think you often look at realtor photos and you're like, oh, why doesn't my house look like this?
I say that all the time. Do people live here?
So that'll be my motto, my personal, my home style motto moving forward. But packing up your things, helping to declutter your home, stage it, in advance of listing, doing fresh coats of paint and good cleaning, especially your windows and things like that, and eliminating junk in your yard. Just do a good downsize and really have a look at the documentaries on Netflix, folks, for minimalism and go with something like that. Well, that's excellent. I'm going to pop back to Kim for this next question. So we're talking about sellers and downsizers and retirees and folks coming from the city. I'm very much counting my lucky stars here that my husband and I purchased our house in 2014 when we did. So what advice would you give for first-time home buyers in a market like this?
What am I going to start off with? Know your numbers. Honestly, I'm actually serious about it. You need to know your numbers, and especially first-time home buyers. It's so very important. The first step to purchasing a home is to know your numbers and to go to your mortgage broker and find out what options you have. So there's different mortgage vehicles and there's different ways to keep more money in your pocket. However, you have to have that conversation with your mortgage broker so that you're informed. So for example, if you make your mortgage payments weekly instead of monthly, over time, over the course of the mortgage, you're going to be able to put more money in your pocket and pay less interest. And, you know, that's our goal. We all work really hard for our money, and it's better in your pocket than somebody else's. So as a first-time home buyer, you need to educate yourself about, you know, all the different areas. You're not just buying a home, you're now getting a mortgage, you're making that financial commitment. And, you know, if you're smart about it, then you can put more money back in your pocket. And that's going to be very valuable over years and years of paying a mortgage.
Mhm.
Another item that a first-time home buyer really needs to know is that when you go get pre-approved for financing, it's really, really important that, you know, after your mortgage broker tells you that you're pre-approved for X number of dollars and you don't have the house yet, well, don't be going to the brick and getting yourself some furniture that, you know, you can keep for a year and not make one payment, or go lease a vehicle, or, you know, charge up your charge card, things like that. Those big purchases are going to hinder your approval. So getting a mortgage is two parts. The first part is you need to get approved for financing, and the second part is the house. So if both of them aren't good, then if one of them isn't, you know, you won't get your mortgage. So making big purchases while you're trying to purchase a home is a big no-no, because things won't work out for you. So even though you have the pre-approval, you purchase a house, you make it conditional on financing, if the market allows you to make it conditional on financing, and then when that paperwork goes to your mortgage broker, he might have to tell you, like, you know, I can't approve this mortgage anymore because you leased a vehicle, you charged up your charge card, your gross debt ratio is an imbalance now. And so something like that is really important to know.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, don't make it rain anywhere if you've got, you know, your financing through your mortgage broker, wherever that might be. You just want to calm down until after everything goes through.
That's my best advice for first-time home buyers.
Yeah, that's excellent. A little.
Can
Oh,
I
yeah,
add
go
something?
ahead. Yeah.
Because we're so used to dealing with mortgage brokers and banks, and Kim keeps saying mortgage broker, which I do refer everyone I can to a mortgage broker, because the average first-time home buyer will go to their bank. And I think that's the big thing, is that I don't try to steer people away from their banks, but I always say, okay, we'll go to your bank. And then I'll say, okay, can you call this mortgage broker as well? Because not right now, but you know, when you could go and get and do a conditional financing, a pre-approval is nothing. It's all the other work that they have to give the banks. The banks throw it away to head office to try and get pre-approval, might be an appraisal, all that other stuff.
Mhm.
But what people don't understand is that first-time home buyers typically don't know what they're doing, if they're, depending on their age, in terms of jobs, and they might be moving. A bank will always tie you into a fixed interest rate, which is huge penalties, because if you're leaving 2.5 years into your 5-year mortgage, you're paying the rest of that interest off for 2.5 years. Whereas most mortgage brokers will explain that. And I've had so many people, not first time home buyers either, other people, that I'm like, how did you get into a fixed rate? A mortgage broker typically will go on a variable rate, which means you only have to pay 2 months interest. And that's where I find that first-time homebuyers should really explore that, because typically not everybody stays in the house for the same 5 years, but sometimes the first-time homebuyers might have more changes because they don't have children. It's their first house. They're trying to climb their whatever ladder in terms of their careers, and they might have, you know, job relocation, and they might want to consider selling that house. So I think that's something that banks have a downfall in my eyes for first-time home buyers. Whereas Kim keeps saying mortgage broker, because we know mortgage brokers are where it's at. They work the best for those clients, especially a first-time home buyer, because they'll say, you know what, your credit's a little bad. This is what you need to do. let's get you back and check this out in 6 months. A bank person will not tell you that. They will not help you. So when she's saying mortgage broker, she's right, but a lot of first-time home buyers will not do that. I just wanted to kind of say, yeah, we know it's a mortgage broker, but the first-time home buyers and some general public will still go to their bank, and that's not the best option. Is in sorry banks, in my eyes, right? So
And just letting folks know that there are more options out there. than
absolutely,
bank, that there
absolutely.
are mortgage brokers and that kind of thing.
And usually back in the day, it would be competitive rating too. Like now everything's really low, but you know, they might be 0.5% cheaper with a mortgage broker too, right?
All right. There's a question in the chat, which I'll get to in just a second, but I wanted to follow up with a question to you, Mary, that in your experience, what do first-time home buyers find most surprising about the process once they've been through it?
So people that actually can win right now, I would say, if you actually found a house and you were able to secure it, probably all the additional costs, right? You're
Mhm.
talking the home inspector. When you do the offer, you have to do a deposit, which we typically used to do like $1,000 because houses would be like 165 or whatever.
Mhm.
Now that deposit, usually for making the offer, like, I'm not going to say binding, but it's consideration to make a legal contract binding,
Mhm.
is at least $5,000. We used to see one, then we saw two. It's really 10 based on the house prices, but you have to have that money within 24 hours of acceptance. So that's a big thing that's kind of changed for a lot of first-time home buyers, but that's a lot of money, right? So you have to come up with that, which is goes against your mortgage, but like your what you owe. But at the same time, you're like, oh God, I got to come up with that money right away. Then your home inspector, so it's going to be money. The legal fees. It's like you're just you're doing this constantly, and you're like, what?
Yeah,
So I'd say the money aspect of it for sure.
that's a
Know
fair.
your numbers.
Yeah.
Yes,
Know
yes.
your numbers.
And know when
Yeah.
you'll be expected to pay said numbers. I think.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that it was a while ago, in 2014, but that for me, that was one of those big aha moments is when I got the bill from the lawyers, and it included our down payments, and it was in the double digits of the thousands, and I was like, whoa. I've never even had, I had the money, but hadn't had it organized in such a way that I literally almost fell off my chair when that was happening. But so know your numbers and know when you can expect to have to pay those numbers out. Our audience members are saying that the discussion and explanation between bank mortgages and mortgage brokers is very helpful. I'm going to switch over to an audience question here, and I'll ask you to respond first, Mary, and then we'll see if Kim, you have anything to add. This audience member, should they anticipate that a real estate agent would suggest fixing, cleaning, or changing items before their house is actually listed, specifically in this this market?
Yeah, I was just at someone's house last week. I actually arranged a contractor for him about a month ago because he let me know that he was thinking about it and he wants to list it when it's green outside.
Mhm.
And he got a contractor, and then I went over before the contractor and he said, what should I fix? So we just went through the house and we pointed out things because again, we're trying to stage it to a point. And everybody has different financial incomes, what they want to spend too, right? So yeah, I will say, okay, there was in this house 70s yellow orange glass beside the doors, which was pristine, but it's like, having those glass panels in new will bring a lot of light in. It's going to look more modern from the outside, from the inside. But she's like, I already had that on the list, but they don't want to see if I was going to mention it, which I did. So we were just going through each room, like, okay, doing this, and people are like, oh, it's cluttered. It's like, yeah, I get it. You're expecting stuff, but this is, you should maybe fix the trim here and, replace this. Their kitchen was one of those things that they weren't prepared to redo their kitchen. I think someone will buy that house and probably rip out the kitchen completely. But we're just saying, fix it up. So they're fixing up some drawer fronts and doing trim around it and getting it repainted. And I was like, yeah, that's perfect,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Kim, anything to add?
No, I guess I'm just thinking, if you're going to put your home up for sale, it sure is easier to go through the process of packing things up and getting the home ready over a course of maybe 3 months than it is, in a week. So if you planning goes a long way. So if you're going to do it, just get started. It might be hard to get started, but once you get going, you'll get the knack of it, and you'll be very happy with the results.
So maybe, so it all, again, you can tailor it to your own individual situation and what you have the budget and the appetite to be able to go through and do. So if you don't have, if it's not in the budget to redo your kitchen, then, fine, but some smaller fixes. And I would imagine, like, big glaring things you'd want to fix, like your roof, or I'm trying to think of examples in my own house. I live
little things like the black piping that's on a furnace, which usually is, well, it's done with the white stuff now. It just shows that your furnace is older, but it will be something that has to be done down the road. It could be simply like, oh, have you done a lot of renovations lately? Maybe getting your ducts clean and your furnace clean. If your furnace is older, getting it cleaned, like just certain little things, because back in the day, we used to know how to do tricks that if it was an older furnace, you would ask them to clean it, because if something was broken, the seller was on the hook to fix it. Right? So it's just, it's just certain little things that you want it to be, you want to show that it works. You want to see like the tags of something. You just want everything to be as pristine as you can, even if it's 25 years old, if it's 50 years old, clean it. And I say the same as Kim, like the fresh paint just makes a big difference. But if there's obviously like, shingles and curling or windows that are condensation, then yeah, like, I would say replace it. Obviously the roof, first thing you should do, that's going to impact the whole house in the end, right?
So it's less, even though the market is crazy and things are selling like hotcakes, and inventory in Midland is in demand, it's less of a as is necessarily kind of sale. It's there's still some sort of consideration. In your opinions, so making fixes like that to your home, whatever they may be, the sort of small or large, depending on the scale, do you find, like, will you be making it back with what you're going to be able to sell it for?
Oh yeah. I think I'm going to be spending close to $75,000 on my house before I sell it. Now, I had siding, soffit face, and all that done as well. But I anticipate that it should bring me at least 200, 250 more, because it's like it's brand new siding, like, plus doing a whole new bathroom. I did a basement room, things that I would never tell people to do that in their own houses, but it was things that I needed to do to get the dollar that I wanted. So my 75,000 ish spent is going to be more than, I'm going to say 300,000 maybe in the end in my pocket, because I know what I could have sold my house for before it was renovated and then after, and there's a huge difference in this market.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes me think of that show, Love It or Listed. I feel like I'll do all these little, like, renovations to my own house and then want to live here more.
Yeah. And back in 2014, if you bought your house and you tried to sell it in 2016 and did nothing to it, you would have lost money. That's the market. Like, we were in that market from, like, I started in 2008. 2008. Regardless, we've never seen a huge increase until 2016. Then 2017 is the big spike, and then it's kind of what it's done. So back in the day, you could spend $50,000 on your house, and then you would, like, within 3 years or 4 years, you try to resell your house, unless it was like inside renovations, you'd still probably would be losing money once you pay your commissions, your lawyer fees, and all that other stuff. Was very hard to make money in this area for so long on houses. So that's why people are, what? It's selling for what? Because it's unheard of. It hasn't happened ever. And it's not just Midland, like, we all, it's outside of the GTA area. It's mind blowing what's happening right now.
All right, so we've got some more great questions coming in via the chat box. So Kim, I'm going to pass this question to you, and then I have a follow-up for you, Mary.
Yeah.
So this audience member asks, when I plan to sell, what services can I expect from a realtor?
Oh, that's a very good question. So, every realtor has their own unique marketing plan, and it is a wise decision to have at least two realtors come in and do a presentation. So, in that presentation, they're going to talk about what your wants and needs are, going to talk about the value of your home, and they're going to show you comparables. So other homes that have sold in the area that are comparable to yours. You're going to talk about the marketing plan. You're going to talk about commission and what they're going to do, what else they're going to do to help you get it sold. So every realtor has their own unique package, and some offer more than others. And, it's really important that you find the realtor that meets your needs and that you're the most comfortable with and that you're going to like and trust, because you're going to have a relationship with.
Mhm.
And you need to hire the one that you think is going to do the best job for you.
And it's such, as you both mentioned already, it's such an important, meaningful thing that you've purchased and that you're selling and letting go of. Mary, same sort of question, but what could somebody expect from the flip side of that in the buyer? If you're working with a realtor and you're the one buying, what kind of services could you expect from a realtor?
Well, it's like anything. There's good realtors and there's bad realtors.
Hmm.
So I am actually one of the weird ones that I like to work hard for my money. I love buyers because buyers are work. Buyers are so much work.
Hmm.
But that's why I'm having a hard time this year. It's, to me, I get to know the whole air, like everything that's selling. I can tell you everything about each house that has sold, what was wrong with it, because you can't just look at comparables on paper or even pictures because you don't know what the issues were because people haven't been in that house. And sometimes you always have to um intercept or not intercept. You have to look into the numbers of what this house is, what it sold for that price. And while those people were, sometimes that they were getting divorced, sometimes that the basement flooded, and there's certain things that you kind of know by looking at a paper, and some things you'll know that, well, they needed a quick sale, like they were moving out of the area or whatever. So on the buying side of things, the realtor does not get paid by the buyers. So the buyer is working and usually under an agreement. I'm old school that I will work with somebody and explain the relationship that we're having. And I typically don't have somebody sign paperwork until we do an offer if I know them. Like if I've sat down with them and met with them, not people from the city calling me and saying, can you show me a house? I will not do that. So basically everyone's a little bit different, but I've shown 35 houses to people. I've worked with people for a year. I've worked with people that I had to say, listen, this year I'm firing you. You can't find a waterfront under 500,000. Like, there's, or, close to the water. Like there's so many different things. So to me, it's all about honesty, knowing your numbers, and then saying, if I'm calling you, you need to come and you need to come right now. We got to go look at this property. So it depends on the market of what it is. But I've told my buyers, do you trust me? And once we start going through houses, because if they call me and say, oh, I want to see this house, and I'll be like, it's a piece of, crap. We're not going to go look at it. Let's not waste our time. I've already seen it. They'll be like, okay, I trust you. So then we are like going to see the stuff that usually I find for them and that they don't have to find. Sometimes I still tell my clients, still go on the realtor.ca system, because Toronto agents could list something and they don't put it on our board, which means I don't see it because we have our own system, right? I
Okay.
don't go to realtor.ca. So there's a lot of things that I tell my buyers. Okay, well, these people's photos, it's not going to look as great when we see it. Just be prepared. But these people's other realtors' photos might not look good. Those are the ones we're going to see, so that they know that, because that's what I know, right? So I'm trying to give them in a short little time as much information that I know, so that when they're looking at realtor.ca or the listings that I send them, and I put like little notes when I send them an email from our system saying, this is a really good house, like great neighborhood. They might send me a listing. I'll be like, there's a lot of rentals on that street. So that's the difference again with having a local realtor, is that we know stuff. We
Mhm.
know about the neighborhoods. We know about that house. If someone says to me a house and I'll be like, oh, that was like a bank sale like 5 years ago and it had water in the basement. And, we could check with the township to see if they did anything because I know that they didn't do the work properly because they are house flippers. I'll be like, I don't really like this house, but I'll show it to you. And then they'll be like, okay. And then, so we're constantly in communication
Mhm.
and I'm telling them what I know so that they're educated because I would never want to sell a house to somebody that was like, lawsuits or whatever else, right? I'm
Mhm.
not about just filling in my pockets. I'm trying to get my buyer to make money down the road with their house as well, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Doesn't matter what it is, first time home buyers, investment property, whatever it is, it's giving them all the knowledge and tools that I know as we're looking at all these houses. Because as you're going, you're you're not driving in the same car, but you're at each house and you're talking and they're getting educated at the same time.
Mhm. Mhm. It's so you're really relying on your realtor in the buying situation for that research and that knowledge, intimate knowledge of and history of a property or of a
Yeah.
neighborhood or something like that. In the buying situation, is the onus on the realtor or the client, or is it kind of a bit of both to present properties, to be like, oh, I saw this one, I think you should really look at it, or is it the client that says, hey, I want to go look at this property? Does the realtor in the buying scenario, do they offer options like?
So I do, and Kim will know, like our buy representation agreement will say that we're supposed to show you everything that's out there.
Okay.
Now, a lot of old school realtors or other realtors, I've heard maybe they're too busy. So the client is calling them. I can't speak for everyone.
Right.
I know usually in my past, it has been me that has sent people listings and said, we need to go see this. Our system's now a little bit faster with realtor.ca. So sometimes my client might send me something that I'm like, oh, I missed that. You got there before me. It must have been last night because we used to be like the next day our system would do our upgrades.
Hmm.
But in the past, I would say it was always me. But I would still say, check this out. If you really, want this area, drive by at night, like look for bins in a driveway and let me know. Like there's certain things that you can look for when you're driving around in an area. So yeah, I'd say I still send all my clients whatever I see. Sometimes they'll send me something that maybe it was listed with a Toronto realtor that's on realtor.ca. But the point is, like, depending on whatever your price point is that I'm looking and I'm sending it out. And then they're gonna come and send me something that they might have seen or heard about, private sale or whatever. So it's kind of both ways, but I'm gonna say should be 80% really the realtor that's sending you stuff. Kim, I don't know if you're gonna say something different.
No, it's exactly like that. I mean, when you meet up with your buyer, they let you know what their wants and needs are, and it's up to us to try and find that ideal home for them. But it is a two-way street because usually the buyer is driving around in the neighborhood that they appreciate the most, and they might end up talking to a neighbor or noticing something like a bin that gives them a hint that maybe perhaps a home is going to go on the market soon. And, you have to have open communication. So, the buyers should be communicating with the realtor about what they've seen and leave it up to us to go do the investigating, make the phone call or door knock or whatever it may be. And so it is a combined effort for sure.
I have a feeling that realtors are like part-time, I don't want to say like therapists, but like
Yes.
you think one thing necessarily, or your client might be saying one thing, but you have to sort of read between the lines as to what they're actually looking for. I'm going to end on this last question from an audience member, and I think it's a great one to end with, and that is, what questions should I ask to a realtor to know whether or not they're a good fit for me? So
Ooh.
we'll start with Kim.
Oh, okay. Um, what questions should they ask to know if they're a good fit?
Yeah.
Um,
Or even
well, So is this for selling or
Yeah,
buying or which?
let's say
which
for
is this?
selling, you had recommended when you're selling, you have two realtors come in and do a presentation. So how would what are the things I'm looking for?
So I think first of all, we're all human
Mhm.
and we all know how to communicate. And I think that if people make impressions, probably within the first 5 or 10 seconds that they come into a home. And I think I always go with my gut. I know it's probably doesn't sound right, but I really think that when you first meet somebody, if you get a good impression, then you're surely on your way to probably making a good choice. You have to ask questions. So, talk about what's important to you and see if it ends up being important to the realtor as well. If you're talking about something that's important to you and maybe your realtor is dismissing it, then I think you need to look at the situation right there and then and ask yourself, is this going to be a good fit? You have a commitment. You're making a commitment to one another, and it's a process, and it's going to be an emotional process.
Mhm.
So you need to make the right decision. You have to fit. You really have to fit.
Mary?
Um, it's funny because I have a lot of similarities. Like I like to ask people questions so I can figure out what their motivation is on selling. And it's the only question I usually get is what are you going to do for marketing and what's your commission rate? I hardly even get experience anymore. A lot of them are referrals, so it's hard for me to like I'm already getting the listing. But I would say what they should be asking is, are you going to sell my house before other people get to see it? Like that's the question that the seller should be asking the realtors, because there's a lot of realtors out there that will say, well, I've got buyers. Well, we all have buyers. You want someone who's going to work hard for your money and for your invest and your interest. So sometimes you have to look at an individual and say, you know what, I want you because I know you're going to work hard. We get along. I like, when you first came in, we got along really good, because it is a relationship. You're like sellers, not so much as a buyer, because you're not seeing them all the time.
Mhm.
And in this market, it's a little bit different because things are selling quickly. But back in the day when you had a listing for 3 to 6 months, every week you're calling, yeah, there's no showings. Yeah. Those were tough calls to make with sellers. Now it's a little bit nicer because you're making a lot of money. But you have to, I think what sellers need to know is who's the realtor? Do you like them? Don't list your house with someone you don't like, because you still will be talking to them, someone that you can trust. But I think you should be really asking the question is, with that marketing, are you going to allow people, like they should explain all the different options that are out there, basically saying like, if I'm going to have my house listed and you have a coming soon sign, because people will just tell you, well, I want a coming soon sign. Not the greatest idea, really. You want your house to be ready. You want to put it on the MLS system, and you want to have all the buyers and all the buyer realtors to come and see it. You don't want me just to say, hey, I've got a buyer. Can we just do a deal before it gets listed? Because there's people that do that. And I think that's what people need to know. And that's what, there's education on that stuff, is that those are the people that the sellers are getting ripped off.
Mhm.
And those are the ones that are thinking about their own pocket or another buyer. It's not for the seller. So they want to you want to make sure that what's the market doing right now? How is that going? So how does that impact how I'm selling my house, which is, offer presentation date, holding the things for 5 days. Not every house is selling right now on an offer presentation date either. So you have to explain that I don't have a crystal ball. If it doesn't sell, then like there's strategies for people that are listing their house at $399 and they're selling for $550. Some people don't feel comfortable doing that. Like I had this conversation with a client. So I said, I'm a firm believer of listing it higher and still doing that offer presentation date. But if it doesn't sell in that 5 days, because every house is different, every area is different, then our next like A plan, B plan, C plan, then we're going to relist it. We're going to cancel the listing, relist it at this price. So you're constantly having that conversation, because even though it's crazy, there are things that are happening at times that you're like, why did that house sell? Why did it only sell for that much? Why did this one sell for 250,000 over? If we don't understand what things are selling for, how can we explain that to a seller? So that's the thing, that it's depending on the market at the time, but you want to know what's happening right now. And I always tell people, if you don't want to list right now, you have to have this conversation again in 3 weeks, 3 months, a month. It's never the same conversation. So you want to just kind of say, what's happening with the market and how are you going to make the most money for me? Because that's what the seller wants to know. They want to make the most amount of money, right?
Right. A really quick follow-up question to Kim, and then I'll wrap things up. I know we're a little bit over our time, but if I'm selling my house, would it be wise of me to look into how many listings a realtor has? So if I'm looking to see, how much time they have to be able to give to my property over the others?
Oh, well, that's definitely a good conversation to have and to find out, how that real estate agent works. So, when you have a lot of listings, maybe that agent is only deals with sellers.
Okay.
Some agents deal just with buyers, some agents deal with just sellers, and some do both. Um, the amount of listings one person has, I mean, those are opportunities for everybody in the real estate market, and it could be a reflection of how hard that agent works, or it could I don't know that you can look at it as a deterrent to hire a realtor, somebody who has a lot of listings, because they might have a lot of back end staff. A lot of agents, are an agent, but they have an assistant, or, they hire out other services. So that's a good conversation definitely to have with a realtor. How much time are you going to have for me? Or what are the expectations? How often should I hear from you? And see if everybody's comfortable with that. And if it's not, then that realtor can make a plan just for you. If their way of doing business is to call once a week, and that seller's saying, no, I want to hear from you for more than once a week, well, then you just have to make those arrangements.
No, that sounds like a really great plan. I mean, so from someone from outside of the industry, so it's good to know that maybe more listings doesn't necessarily always translate into less personalized service. It depends on, every realtor works a little bit different, and I think you touched really great, both of you, on that communication piece, and ask those questions up front, and lay out all the expectations on the table. So that is great. I want to take the opportunity to thank you both for participating, Kim and Mary, for being here for our first Ask an Expert series. It's been very enlightening. We've had comments in the chat box about how informative our session has been. So I think that all of our viewers will really take a lot away from today's session. Thank you to you, our audience, for joining us tonight. I know this Tuesday, right around dinner time. I know it's a competition for your time, so I appreciate your being here. Our next Ask an Expert series is on Thursday, May 27th at 2 p.m. and we'll be discussing gardening and landscaping with our special guests from the Midland Horticultural Society, Norman's Garden Gallery, and Return to the Native Small Plant Nursery in Elmville. I'm looking forward to this one specifically because I don't enjoy gardening, so I want to know what gear can do for those of us who don't enjoy it. But so we can look forward to that session in May 27th at 2 p.m. Thank you again, everyone, for this evening and for joining us. That's it for tonight. Have a great night.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.